So when we're trying to gather statistical data, one of the reasons why we're using samples is we're trying to maybe estimate a characteristic or an opinion or some measure of the entire population, and conducting a survey or doing a study or an experiment on the entire population is just not practical. Although there is one time when we're doing a survey on an entire population that I can think of, and that's the census that takes place every 10 years and scheduled to come up again in 2020, where we try to gather information on the total population count of American citizens in the United States. Now, we have to be careful, though, with the samples that we create, that the samples themselves are not biased, that they're not misrepresenting the population at large. So let's say, for example, if we were doing a survey on opinions about the economy, and if our sample only included poorer neighborhoods and that had high unemployment, well, we're probably going to get a biased sample. That group's going to have a different opinion than, say, a group from more affluent neighborhoods where there is lower unemployment, or even from a middle-class neighborhood. If we just picked one of those three neighborhoods, let's say, as part of our sample group, then we're probably not getting an opinion that's representative of the population at large. Another thing that can bias a sample is the size of the sample. Generally speaking, the larger the number of people in the sample that either you're surveying or you're doing a study of or an experiment, the larger the sample, the more unbiased that sample would tend to be. A smaller the sample is going to be biased. A larger sample is going to tend to be less biased, maybe even you could classify as being unbiased. And so for a good statistician, they want to have an unbiased sample. So let's look at a couple of examples here, and let's identify whether they're biased or unbiased. So here in this first one, it says a journalist surveys 15 student members of the Young Republicans, I guess this is probably on a college campus, to determine the overall political opinions of the student body. Well, now what are we trying to determine? It says that this journalist wants to determine the overall political opinions of the student body. But look what this journalist surveys. They survey 15 student members of the Young Republicans. Well, certainly this we would have to say is a biased survey, because this group of young Republicans, they probably tend to have more common opinions, and it's not a good representation of the entire student body. At the same time, if you went after the libertarian group, well, they're going to have similar opinions, and that may not be reflective of the entire student body. Or if you just surveyed the young Democrats, you're going to get another biased sample, because they're going to have similar opinions that probably are not representative of the entire student body. So we would have to say that that would be a biased sample. And it's going to affect the outcome of either the survey or the study or some kind of experimental group that we might be considering. Let's look at one more. It says a shoe store conducts a study in which shoes are most popular. The store surveys every third girl and boy that enters the store. Well, they're trying to determine which shoes are the most popular. Obviously, they're selling to a younger group, I would say, since it says every third girl and boy, and not female or male. Well, I think we could say that this is probably unbiased. They're doing they have a systematic sample. They're doing a sample on some type of regular interval. Every third girl, then every third boy, that enters the store. So there should be again, that's going to be a systematic sample. And I think we can say that this is unbiased because the sample's random and it really doesn't favor one outcome over the other. Now, if they were wearing a shirt when they did the survey that said Nike on there, then you've probably got a danger of having an unbiased sample because you're kind of promoting one group over the other. But assuming that's not the case, that the person doing the survey is not trying to influence the outcome, then I think you could say you got an unbiased sample. Now, we're also going to find out that we can have biased surveys by the questions that are asked. That's going to come up a little bit later. Or you could even have a biased study or experimental or an experiment. You got to watch out and try to factor out the bias.